Didn't think I was coming back with a video this quick, especially about this. So get this, it looks like Superstitious from Frédéric Malle made in collaboration with Albert Elbaz, the designer for Lanvin for a long time, or if you're from Atlanta, Lanvin. I actually saw this on the website a couple days ago, and I was thinking, all right, well, maybe it's out or maybe it's been announced. Nope, not yet. It actually is being staged at the moment. So all of this was found by me kind of naturally. I was on the site trying to look up the notes for a fragrance that actually is not listed there at all for some reason. They've just like removed it. I don't think they've discontinued it, but at least as of right now, it's not there. Now, when I went to the site, it actually took me to the EU site. And on that is where it displayed this image that I'm showing you now, which is the Superstitious, marketing. And the landing page actually referenced anniversary. So it looks like this is new stuff. If you guys didn't know, this fragrance launched in 2017 in April, I think, but it was announced late 2016. So I think the anniversary that they're referencing is the release, but that would be like 9 years ago because it came out in 2017 in April. But it was announced the year before, so it's kind of 10 years. I'm not exactly sure. We'll talk about the release timing though, because it's a little interesting, to say the least. So let's talk about the actual fragrance for a second. So Superstitious, like I said, it came out in 2017 in April. I think this is actually when he was gone from Lanvin. He moved on to a different brand where he was at for a couple of years, and then he passed away shortly after. Rest in peace, Albert Elbaz. So the fragrance actually is a rose fragrance, and it focuses on aldehydes. So you do get this kind of like soapy rose. I have never smelled this at all. I've heard a whole lot about it from what I've been told. This is like one of the best Frédéric Malle fragrances, but after he passed, they discontinued it. At least that is the assumption that everybody had. Y'all remember when Kobe passed and they like took Kobe's off the Nike site, and then that unfortunately ballooned the price in the aftermarket for Kobe's for several months. It's still really crazy. To this day, you cannot buy a Kobe jersey. To this day, it's nuts. I'm assuming something similar happened with Mr. Al. That being said, from what I understand, it also wasn't the most celebrated or most popular from the brand. So discontinuing it, because he's no longer with us is totally fair. And I think at that point, it was definitely the right thing to do. Now they're bringing it back. So let's actually talk about the landing page, and I'm going to go to it on my phone just to look at it together with you guys. So when you get onto the landing page, you see Superstitious Anniversary, discover the collection by Dominique Ropion. And then on this, you'll see in the middle, the actual fragrance with the eye. This one doesn't feature like the typical packaging that a Frédéric Malle fragrance would. Right above it, kind of to the left, you still see the eye, but that I believe is a body cream. To the right of the bottle is a travel spray. And then to the left, you can see that there's the hair mist. So here's the thing. None of that stuff existed initially. The perfume, from what I understand, was the only thing that was actually sold originally 9 years ago. Additionally, they're saying it's Superstitious Anniversary. So I'm assuming this is some new stuff. Based on all of that, I would assume that all of this is new stuff. This is not old marketing that has just been sitting on the site for a while that they just never removed access to. This instead is some new stuff. We see some stuff from Frédéric Malle and Albert Elbaz. His name is so damn hard for me to say. We're just gonna say Mr. Elbaz from here on out. Let's go ahead and read a little paragraph that they put here. So, as fate would have it, Albert has now made his match in the perfume world, the result of our unique collaboration with Mr. Ropion, born from the convergence of creative vision and mutual admiration. is the elusive scent of a dress, a classic floral aldehydic perfume that structures Albert's vision of an elaborate fabric in which everyone can find their own beauty. Celebrate the anniversary of the Superstitious launch with a limited edition signed perfume here. So when I initially saw this, that was the part that I got to, and I was like, well, damn, if it's out, let me see it. Clicked it, and what happens is it takes you directly to the normal homepage for Frédéric Malle, in which they're showing contre-jour. This is important because I know that this is some staging stuff, because Estee Lauder actually does this a lot with their fragrances. If you didn't know, Frédéric Malle is an Estee Lauder owned brand. So I remember last month, or maybe 2 months ago at this point, there was rumors that they were gonna drop a new fragrance called Contre-Jour, which they did end up dropping. When I went to the site to learn more, because I had assumed this was just announced, it wasn't there, but it was actually being sold exclusively at Harrods. So it's been out, and there were reviews of this out. So I'm like, okay, it's probably out, or maybe they have some marketing up for it. I go to the site and it says Contre-Jour. Again, this is the EU site. So it says Contre-Jour. I clicked to learn more, and it took me directly to the homepage that they had at the time, which I think was advertising Portrait of a Lady in the like red bottle. Remember, this is just a couple months ago. So this behavior is consistent with what was already going on before, which is why I'm bringing it up. This isn't just like some weird site that popped up. No, they're staging this, and I think they're just ready to launch. So I'm looking at the rest of the stuff, and something that I thought was interesting is that they said it's celebrate the anniversary of the Superstitious launch with a limited edition signed perfume here. So this is where it gets interesting. I have a couple of questions. One, when they say signed, what exactly do they mean? Because Elbralbes, his signature is... I've looked up some autograph stuff from Mr. Elbaz, and what you end up finding is that he doesn't do like a traditional signature. He does like usually like a heart kind of a thing, but then it kind of looks like a balloon. I don't know if it's a heart and then he's signing like Elbaz, or if it's just like some design he does. But if you look at the bottle though, and this was consistent for the last time that they launched this, there is that like eye logo that kind of looks like he just scribbled it in. I'm assuming that's what they're talking about when they say a signed bottle, because like obviously they can't get a new signature from Mr. Elbaz. You know, he's no longer with us, which is why they discontinued it initially, allegedly. Not quite sure there. The second thing that is interesting is that they are specifically saying a limited edition bottle. So if the signature, that eye logo that is on the bottle, if that is the signature, does that mean that this line is limited edition? Because that's a little interesting, because you're not just launching or relaunching the fragrance anymore. You're adding to the collection. You're doing a hair mist, which they have for a number of their fragrances. Portrait of a Lady, Promise, all of them have hair mists or have had hair mists. You're doing a body butter, which they've done a handful of times. And they're also doing like a limited edition, like travel thing too. So you're doing an entire collection for it to be limited? I don't know. It almost feels like this is something that they could like relaunch from time to time to celebrate Mr. Elbaz. But also at the same time, like you're just gonna drop a whole like collection of stuff just to not have it for a while. I don't know. Limited edition stuff in perfumery, I think is super weird. Especially for something that I know people want. And I know this because I've almost bought this fragrance on Mercari like last year, but the prices for Superstitious on Mercari is crazy. I've seen bottles, 100 mils, upwards of $800, which is very, very expensive. But if they're relaunching it, that's actually a good thing, because it'll tank that market at least a little bit. Now, I think the thing that we kind of have to look at is this like a shitty thing to do for them to like relaunch something that is in a way tied to Albert Elbaz's legacy, as he was a pretty important designer for Lanvin. And his style was like this really nice kind of romanticized, flowy style that you see a lot now. Like Albert Elbaz is definitely an important designer. So now bringing this back after it was discontinued, likely because of his passing, it does make you ask the question of, is this ethical? That being said, like, what does even ethical mean now in 2026? Okay, so there's another layer to this as well. There's another fragrance that was a collaboration between a fashion brand, Dries Van Noten, that was discontinued, right? And we never really got confirmation on either one of them, but it's likely that the Dries Van Noten collaboration dissolved because Dries Van Noten opened up their own perfume business. And from what I understand, it's been very successful. I still have not smelled anything from Dries Van Noten, but I've heard great things. Now, the interesting layer here is that for the last several months, there has been whispers that Dries Van Noten was going to come back under a different name. The newest development in that is one, Superstitious is actually re-releasing. So the chances of Dries Van Noten coming back increased, but it increased even more because Estee Lauder is now merging with Puig. Puig owns the Dries Van Noten perfume market. that is like theirs, in the same way that Estee Lauder owns Frédéric Malle. So now that they're coming together, you would assume that bringing the Dries Van Noten fragrance back would be a no-brainer. And you would assume that that would be the case. And if they're bringing Superstitious back, it almost seems like it's gonna happen, considering Dries Van Noten was one of the more popular Frédéric Malle fragrances. People still pay gross amounts of money for used bottles of that, which, hey, maybe we'll get that back this year as well. That would be awesome. But I wonder if they would treat it in the same way that they're gonna do Superstitious, where it looks like Superstitious is gonna be a limited time thing, and then they're just gonna move on. I don't know if that's gonna be the case with Dries Van Noten, because you could probably just keep that in rotation like they do all of their other fragrances, and then, you know, make some money off of that. Who knows though? All we know for certain is that Superstitious is coming back. And the second it drops, I'm blind buying a bottle. I do not care, because I know at the very least I can at least recoup my money. I can probably sell it when they phase it out, maybe later this year. Who knows? Anyway, what have you guys heard? Have you guys seen any of this? Have you guys tried to go to the EU website and then boom, it's Superstitious? If you have, let me know. If you've smelled Superstitious, let me know. Like I said in my last video, I guess I'm a YouTuber now. Go ahead, leave a like, subscribe. I'm gonna be talking more about fragrances. I think I'm gonna drop a spring list pretty soon. Yeah, hit me. See ya.